on the sidelines of the NATO summit, here is President Trump issuing warnings and threats once again to Iran. And now he has said virtually that the ceasefire is now over. The United States Central Command has announced on the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, the U.S. forces have launched additional strikes against Iran to further degrade its ability to threaten freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, in a statement, U.S. said that it was holding Iran accountable for what it described as a recent unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews that were transiting across the vital international waterway. Now, let's get you this breaking update. What we are now learning, that the report suggests that Iran has also launched ballistic missiles towards U.S. military bases in a response that has now come into the U.S. strikes on several cities in southern Iran. Now, the pictures that have been coming in of these missile launches, while reports indicate that a fire also broke out at the U.S. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, following the alleged retaliatory strike that has now been carried out by Iran. So the Iranian military has come out to even release footages which it says that it has struck several of the U.S. bases as far as in the Gulf region is concerned, and this seems to be a repeat of what has been happening as far as when it comes to the conflict is concerned. When we talk about President Trump, because in the middle of these renewed attacks, President Trump seems to be defending the handling of the Iran war at the press briefing during the NATO summit, and he's reiterated that he remains the prime target of Tehran, saying that they are trying to kill him. Now, let's in the meantime also talk about President Trump also threatening to launch fresh strikes on Iran, including the country's civilian infrastructure, and also talking about seizing the Karga Island, and which is the home of the key oil facilities. Let's in the meantime connect with Srinjoy and Akansha, both of them joining us live here on the broadcast. Good morning to both of you. Akansha, quick update. We are looking at again when it comes to the escalating tensions and this latest threat that has now been issued by President Trump.
Absolutely. In fact, the Americans have expanded their strikes on southern Iran, which is why we all woke up to the news that Iran has been struck in Sirik, Jask, Abu Musa Island, even Bushehr and Chabahar have been targeted by the American forces. Now, you rightly also shared that the U.S. 5th Fleet in Bahrain has also been attacked. Kuwait also has been attacked, and this at a very critical timing, because remember the External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar has just concluded his visit to Kuwait on his West Asian tour. Now, it should be kept in mind that the Iranians are extremely mindful of the fact that they have two bargaining chips. What are they? The Strait of Hormuz, and the fact that if they are attacked, they will be attacking all of the U.S. allies in West Asia, something that they have been maintaining even before, since the war began. So that is exactly what the statement coming in from the Iranian parliamentary speaker, Mohammad Ghalibaf, states, that strike and you will be struck. There is going to be no extortion, no bullying by the United States, which we will be giving into. But the U.S., as has already been expressed by the U.S. President Donald Trump and the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance as well, that they are going to ensure that the maritime traffic is not controlled by Iran, and perhaps these strikes are also a reminder to them that they need to get back to the MOU, the understanding struck there, and not target the commercial vessels.
Absolutely, because it seems that in a way that Iran wanted to monetize when we speak of the Strait of Hormuz, and this is something that United States of America under no conditions wanted that, and as far as free international waterways are concerned. But here is Iran, which is trying to exude its dominance over this region. Now President Trump seems to be mulling that the full U.S. naval blockade could be enforced once again. Let's listen into what he said.
We just hit them very hard, and I'd say we hit them 20-1. Every time they hit us, we're going to hit them 20. And we did it last night. They did a little something today, but it was really retribution for last night. They hit actually 3 boats, not 2. And when they hit, we hit back much harder.
Are we returning to full-scale military conflict, sir?
I don't know. I don't know. We'd win it very quickly. It's another way of doing it. We have many ways we can win. But we've already won militarily. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because it's not a great
moreover, when we speak of the Beheshti Fort, that has been destroyed following the US strike. Now, the head of the Chabahar Free Zone organization has confirmed that the port's maritime traffic control tower was hit and it was destroyed in the attack. Let's connect with Trinjoy on this. So, Trinjoy, attacks that have repeatedly threatened the shaky ceasefire, but President Trump's comments have added a new uncertainty. And that uncertainty is something which is now visible. Either we speak of markets, either we speak of oil prices, and a renewed conflict could engulf a wider Middle East war.
It's almost like this peace process never happened. It's almost like the ceasefire never happened. And this is really part 2 of the 40-day war. Now the worry is to look ahead. What can happen now? Because Iran, after these strikes, has resolved to hit back. Now you've seen what has happened in Bahrain. The naval headquarters of the US has got hit, the 6th Fleet. Now we have to see what America will do, because Iran, we know, has still sufficient quantities of missiles, ballistic missiles, and also drones. Now those can be used against ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. Now that is a given under these circumstances, and you would expect Iran to close the Strait of Hormuz. The other thing that you would expect will happen, and if that happens, the peace process is dead and buried. And that, of course, is the American naval blockade part 2. Now, will President Trump go ahead and do a naval blockade? Because of all these things, it's the one thing that will hurt the Iranians the most. The only other thing that will hurt the Iranians is attack on their infrastructure, the oil infrastructure. Except that if that happens, then we look at worst case situations. Then the Iranians could do just the same with the UAE, with the Saudis, with Qatar, with Kuwait, and so on. And the water plants could also get hit. This is a worry that was there even during the 40 days of fighting. So if that happens, then we are looking at serious crises.
Absolutely.
Not just in Iran.
Inclusion of the civilian infrastructure, and it could take years possibly when it comes to repairing and reconstruction, and especially when we talk about the situation that has now escalated. It now seems like we are back to square one, because this renewed conflict, if we talk about Middle East, would likely again halt the energy shipments through the strait, and that is very crucial to global economy. But we have the Iranian point of view also coming in. Let's put that across for our viewers, because what we are learning, that Iran has also reportedly launched retaliatory strikes following fresh US military action, with the Iranian state media that they have been claiming that American bases across West Asia have also come under attack. This is a repeat of what has been happening before. Now, according to reports, a US military base in Kuwait was amongst the target, and the Iranian media has also been releasing visuals purportedly showing a missile strike on the US facility. Well, that seems to be the very focus that we are now talking about exactly when it comes to Kuwait's military has also been talking and saying that its air defense systems intercepted hostile missile and drone attacks, and Iran, which has also launched attacks both on Bahrain and Kuwait. We are talking about US military bases that are being hosted by these Gulf countries, and this is in response to the earlier wave of the US airstrikes that has now been conducted on its territory. But that seems to be the Iranian response. Let's in the meantime also talk about what the Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi has been saying, issuing a strong message amid rising tension, saying that derogatory remarks against Iran will not diminish country's greatness. Now, in a post on X, he has said that the Iranians are known for their civility and strong values, adding that Iran responds not with insults but with action, courage and resolve. And this seems to be coming in response to what President Trump during the sidelines of the NATO summit, Akansha, we have seen the kind of name calling that President Trump has been doing with Iran. Iran says that we fight the resolve, but this is with the language obviously that they seems to have gone on the offensive.
And that sort of also places the US president on a back foot, because that's not the kind of language you expect from, say, the head of a state of a global superpower. And it's also giving the IRGC or, say, even the Iranian leadership that sort of edge over the Americans when they're saying that, we've had enough and we're not going to let the Americans bully us. In fact, the IRGC also issued a statement saying that naval and aerospace forces will be carrying out joint missile and drone operations against US allies. And that's exactly what they've done. They've attacked the US base in Kuwait. They've attacked the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain as well. But to come back quickly to what the point that you were making is, this is Donald Trump's frustration talking, Amita, because he's increasingly angry, not just with the Iranians, but also with his own allies within the NATO, who, remember, are against this war. He also slammed them in Ankara when he was attending that NATO summit. And he, in fact, refused to continue trading with Spain. Mark Rutte, who's almost known to be a lion whisperer when it comes to being Donald Trump's friend, and Donald Trump is extremely fond of Mark Rutte, who's the Secretary General of NATO. He also yesterday took out the time to, in fact, explain to the US president the kind of military indirect assistance that US allies have provided to him, and yet he's being angry. Now, this was a summit which was about increasing the defense spending for the Ukraine-Russia war. Will the US president refuse to do so? He's left on a very angry note and a very rather bitter one. But this is in the benefit of mankind, because remember, if West Asian allies of the United States are already being targeted, and if NATO allies also join in this fight, this is certainly a World War III scenario.
Absolutely. And this is a concern that will also be raised as far as the government of India is concerned, because what is being said that we are also monitoring the situation very closely, and multiple ships and tankers that in the Persian Gulf are also Indian based, and we are also talking about several other foreign based commercial tankers as well, which has a significant Indian crew members that are said to be on board. We still remember what had happened when we lost at least 3 sailors when there were continuous strikes that was carried out on foreign flagged vessels. Now, with the guns that seems to be roaring in West Asia, India, however, cannot afford to look away, because even as the US-Iran truce falls apart, the consequences could hit India's economy, energy security, and also strategic interests. So why is India watching very closely? Because there are consequences, and the implication is going to be multiple. So let's talk about the global energy trade. That is again likely to be impacted. Sanctions on the Iranian oil limits India's options. However, India is not a big purchaser when we speak of the Iranian oil. Then may also affect when it comes to India's oil and LPG supply and the prices as well, if the critical waterway gets blocked again, and beyond that, if the US naval blockade is also imposed. Then also the inflationary pressures will be once again that we are now looking forward as far as a significant dip in oil prices. We were actually looking forward that when will that be reflected when it comes to the domestic markets, but the fallout in the stock markets and the Sensex and the Nifty, that has now dipped to around 2%. We'll see how the markets this morning has been reacting. But the United States Central Command has announced that on the direction of the Commander-in-Chief of the US forces, they have now launched additional strikes to further degrade its ability to threaten the freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. Now, in a statement, the United States has said that holding Iran accountable for what it described as the recent unjustified aggression against commercial shipping and civilian crews transiting the strategically vital international waterway. And this is coming on the directions while President Trump was attending the NATO summits. On the sideline of that the direction came in from President Trump to strike them very hard.
We hit back much harder.
Are we returning to full-scale military conflict, sir?
I don't know, but win it very quickly. It's another way of doing it. We have many ways we can win, but we've already won militarily. They have very little left, and they want to make a deal so badly. They called a little while ago. They want to make a deal so badly. I just don't know if they're worthy of making a deal. I don't know that they're going to honor the deal. That's the problem.
If they want to make a deal, why do you think they attacked commercial vessels?
Because they're sort of crazy, to be honest with you. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal.
Well, retribution is the word that has been used by President Trump on hitting Iran hard very again. In fact, he wanted the U.S. military to just finish the job. Now, the ceasefire is over. The peace deal seems to be null and void. We are back to square one. And U.S. and Iran are now back at striking each other. And neither U.S. neither Iran have expressed any sign of holding back. Let's get you this report.
The war between the US and Iran officially began. US and Israeli forces joined hands to strike Iran. For 3.5 months, the war went on. Supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khomeini, dead. Business suspended on the Strait of Hormuz. Markets across the globe in red. Retaliatory strikes extending to Dubai. The world saw an unprecedented geopolitical standoff. For 5 weeks, global leaders held their breath. Some acted as peace brokers. Then, multiple mediation attempts later, a temporary peace deal agreed upon. Trump and Iranian President Pezeshkian formally signed a memorandum, a 60-day window to make the deal permanently agreed upon. But the understanding was short-lived. Cracks appeared as Qatar hosted indirect talks. US launched fresh strikes hitting around 80 targets. Claiming Tehran hit commercial oil tankers first. A grieving Tehran holding the funeral for Khomeini didn't hold back either. And that was the end of the ceasefire.
Probably hit them hard again tonight. I'll give them a little warning. We're going to hit them hard tonight. But we'll see how it all works out. No, I'm not happy with them.
Just like that, the hope for peace in West Asia faded. And Tehran got a fresh warning. The fate of West Asia once again hangs in the balance. Can the global powers hit a pause on war?